Iowa All-State Music Festival. Here's your host, Jerry Kreitzer.
Tonight, over 1,000 of the most talented high school-age musicians in Iowa are assembled for the concert of a lifetime, a musical honor that will long be remembered as one of the high points of their high school lives. Leading our all-state ensembles are three prominent guest conductors who have spent the past 2 days rehearsing the all-state chorus, orchestra, and band for this event. We'll open our program with the traditional America the Beautiful, conducted by Weston Noble, Director of Music Activities at Luther College in Decorah. Mr. Noble is also the only known person to have conducted all three of Iowa's all-state music ensembles.
Nations,
And with that stirring rendition of America the Beautiful, we begin the 1990 All-State Music Festival. But before we continue with the concert, let's meet the guest conductor of the All-State Band, Larry Racklin, who is the musical director and conductor of the Opera Theater, Chamber Orchestra, and Wind Ensembles at the University of Southern California. Larry, you've been quite involved with contemporary music and contemporary music ensembles throughout your career. What challenges and rewards do you find working with contemporary scores?
Well, the challenge, of course, is to bring the new score to life and to find meaning in the music and come up with a point of view when there maybe are not recordings to go learn from. I think one of the great rewards is when you share something brand new to students or to an audience, because right now we only have just barely 10 years left in the century. And I think that we're going to have to know what pieces should stay and remain with us. And I think it's the job of musicians today is to present as many of those options to the listeners so that they can decide. And we can decide as sort of an aesthetic community what's worthy of continuing into the 21st century.
Yeah. It's like you have to educate the public.
Sure,
and,
absolutely.
Teach them contemporary music,
Absolutely.
As you're doing with these students. And what kind of technical problems do they encounter in a score?
Well, I think the most of the problems that high school students have with contemporary music is more cerebral. You know, it's sort of their background of experiences. They're not familiar with these kinds of sounds or chords or even rhythms, technically. But I think I was the same way, too, when I was in high school. But somebody continued to feed me with contemporary music, and in time, you know, you develop your own taste. I mean, today's music educators are the taste makers of the students. And if we're giving the students high-quality literature to play, then you're assisting them for life.
You've collaborated with many of America's foremost composers over the years. What can you tell us about the relationship between composer and conductor?
Oh, it's so wonderful. It's, of course, very unnerving and a bit scary because, you know, they hear everything and you probably don't. But you really feel like you're dealing with the creator right there in front of you. You know, also doing a good bit of old music as I do with Beethoven and Mozart and Haydn, you know, you're at best a second guesser. But when the composer is there, he can or she can look you right in the eye and say, no, I really wanted to go this way. And then hopefully they give you the option to decide if in fact you can make it go that way or your own way.
One of the pieces that we'll be hearing tonight is The Passing Bell. Fascinating work. Can you talk us through The Passing Bell? What kind of sounds will we be hearing tonight?
Well, Warren Benson, composer at the Eastman School, wrote this piece wonderfully so for the Luther College Ensemble of Decorah, Iowa in 1975. Benson was fascinated with the overtone series of a bell. So the beginning are these sort of exclamations of what a bell would sound like. So it starts in a unison, and then a fifth, and then another fifth, and another fifth, so we have this built-up dissonance. Because as the basis of the piece is the tragedy of the commission, which was an unfortunate death of the concertmaster of the Luther College Band, he reworks two Welsh chorales. One is called Jesus Christ, My Sure Defense, and one is We Move in Faith. And he moves them around and creates them so that by the end, they're sort of completely obliterated by the aggressiveness of the bell sounds. So whereas the music is very poignant and very gentle, it's also very angry and very aggressive.
What would you consider one of your greatest rewards as a music educator?
Well, I think the great rewards always lies in the music. And when you feel that you can impart something special to it, even if it is with high school students, out of town on a weekend, that maybe you feel that you've left something with them, and maybe you've in a small way changed something about them. It's really touching when, you know, you get letters back from them after one of these sort of weekends, and they tell you about it. It, in a way, gives credibility to why we do what we do.
What do you consider to be the role of music education in today's public high school curriculum?
Well, I think it's clear that The country's in a difficult time right now as far as education and music education goes. But it is a fine and necessary art. It's one of the few things left that gives us a sense of our own being, our own culture. It teaches students something about beauty that they can't get when they're at the computer. It teaches something about the history of art that they can't get in language class. It's as essential as learning to read and write. I dare say that if everyone in the world played and understood a little music, the communication and sharing that could go on would be significantly stronger. I know that directly because of the conducting I've done in other parts of the country when we can't even speak the same language, in other parts of the world, I should say. And that the common language is always music. And it's one thing that someone in Decorah, Iowa can have in common with someone in Paris, France. They might not be able to understand each other's language, but that could be a common bond.
Why is the All-State experience important?
Well, it acknowledges those students who've been working extra hard, who, like in their academics, are desiring to excel. It gives them an opportunity to get together and enjoy each other for a weekend, kind of see how they, stack up if they want to make music a career. And I think it always seems to leave lasting impressions. I mean, you talk to any folks who are of our generation who were involved in all states. I mean, they remember the conductors, they remember the pieces, they remember what part they played. And that's really amazing. I mean, you can't really go back on one's education and remember that about too many courses you've had, what books you read. It's very difficult. What pieces you played in your all-state band 25 years ago, you can remember. It's amazing.
And now, the All-State Band, under the direction of Larry Ratcliffe. director of the 1990 All-State Chorus is Weston Noble, director of music activities at Luther College in Decorah. During a break in rehearsals, I had a chance to visit with him about the importance of music education in the lives of high school students. Your reputation as a choral conductor is widely known. It's probably a little known fact that you conducted all-states in all three medium, band, orchestra, and chorus. Can you walk us through your career and tell us how you got to rest in the choral field?
I taught high school for 2 years here in Iowa, and I was a choral director 44 years ago when they had the very first Iowa All-State here, and I had a quartet here. And then I went to the University of Michigan and was called to Luther for a replacement for a year. And to fill that replacement, I was had both the Luther College Band and the Nordic Choir. And that year sort of extended and extended itself until 43 years later I'm still there. So I got started in choral right off the bat, but I was also an instrumental for 27 years, counting high school. And that's what allowed me to branch into the all-state genre of the instrumental as well as the choral. And I've treasured that very much. To do an all-state orchestra and have 30 celli come roaring in on a theme is sometimes just more than you can take, you know.
What sets Iowa apart in the field of choral music? Are there any strong suits and different characteristics?
I think we're holding very well. We're holding better in Iowa than they are in many states, especially in the peripheries, that out east and out west. It's not as good. And I was doing a festival in Pennsylvania, and they asked the question, what is special about the Midwest? And I said, well, I guess it's tradition. And they said, yes, but our tradition is longer than yours. Look at Harvard, look at Yale, look at Princeton. So what makes it? And about the only answer I could come up with is, but our colleges, which have sort of nurtured this choral tradition, have never left the church. But out east, they did. They became independent entities. And I think that we have a nurturing field that is so conducive in our colleges here by that virtue of that fact. And of course, then this spreads into the public schools. You know, Howard Swan, the great dean of the choral directors of the United States, was asked the question, do you have any regrets in your choral career? Well, he taught at Occidental, the Harvard of the West, and he was out there with Roger Wagner and Charles Hurt and the rest. And so everybody expected to say, no, I have no regrets. And he says, yeah, I've got one regret. Everybody kind of held their breath, and he said, I never taught in the Midwest. I never taught at a Lutheran college. See that? Apparently this is the bed of a wonderful soil that nurtures this tradition.
What advice do you have for choral directors to solidify the place of choral music education in the curriculum?
To do the best job they can so that the parents will just rise up and revolt. Owatonna, Minnesota has one of the finest choral programs that we have. And because of a certain law that was passed in Minnesota and so forth, their choral program was cut. Well, the parents wouldn't hear of it. And so they raised enough money and they got those people back in again. Now the Owatonna High School Choir goes out and sings in Carnegie Hall in New York this year. The community eventually has to support it because of the strength of the program.
How do you feel about the importance of choral music education in the lives of high school students?
It's far more important than even they realize. You know, we have so many material things in our life today, and kids go to school. They nurture their minds. They nurture their minds all day, and then they go out and they have jobs afterwards. How well we know. Well, then that's again, it's a materialistic type of thing, you know. How are they going to feed the most important side of them? That's their spirit side, you know. The arts nurture that. And it's our responsibility then to give them something that nourishes them, just like you do at Washington High School. That's why those kids want to keep coming back. It gives them something that nothing else gives them.
Weston, this is certainly one of the most diversified choral programs for an Iowa All-State in recent years, with stoic classical pieces of Stanford and Argento, all the way to almost a hoedown of the arrangement of Cindy. What kind of things were going through your mind when you picked this program?
I wanted to run the gamut of the emotions of the people in the choir. And I wanted them to be able to express every side of themselves. Like you say, the hold-down side, the fun side, or the deep introspective side that the men's chorus piece projects, or the ultimate of romanticism that the gals project, or like you say, the highly classical pieces of the Argento and the Stanford. It runs the whole emotional gamut. I think that's why they like it.
I often like to compare conductors with painters, and that they both work with colors. The colors of an orchestra and a band are fairly obvious. What can you say about the colors of a chorus, and what aspects do you like working with?
The sensitivity of the colors. I like to relate that, in a sense, to the impressionistic period. You know, there's the romantic period of the orchestra, the brilliant colors of all of the families. But when you want to get into the subtleties of colors, only a choir can take you into a Monet painting or something of that effect. That's definitely the way I view the choral palette.
And now, the All-State Chorus, conducted by Weston Noble.
gonna tell you about the coming of the judgment. Very well, very well. Said I'm gonna tell you about the coming of the judgment. Very well, very well. There's a better day a-coming. Very well, very well. There's a better day a-coming. Very well, very well. In that grace is the morning. Very well, very well. In that grace is the morning. Very well, very well. In that grace is the morning. Very well, very well. In that grace is the morning. Very well, very well. Oh, preacher, full your Bible. Very well, very well. Oh, preacher, full your Bible. Very well, very well. Oh, till thy soul's converted. Very well, very well. Oh, till thy soul's converted. Very well, very well. In that grace is the morning. Very well, very well. In that grace is the morning. Very well, very well. In that grace is the morning. Very well, very well. In that grace is the morning. Very well, very well. Blow your trumpet, Gabriel. Very well, very well. Blow your trumpet, Gabriel. Very well, very well. Lord, how loud shall I blow it? Very well, very well. Blow it right, calm and easy. Very well, very well. Do not alarm all my people. Very well, very well. Tell them all to come to the judgment. Very well, very well. In that grace is the morning. Very well, very well. In that grace is the morning. Very well, very well. In that grace is the morning. Very well, very well. In that grace is the morning. Very well, very well. Then you see them coffins busted. Very well, very well. Then you see the folks in the rising. Very well, very well. Then you see the world on fire. Very well, very well. Then you hear the stars are falling. Very well, very well. Then you see that folk get lightning. Very well, very well. Then you hear that rolling thunder. Very well, very well. Fare ye well, poor sinner. Very well, very well. Say, fare ye well, you poor sinner. Very well, very well. In that grace is the morning. Very well, very well. In that grace is the morning. Very well, very well. In that grace is the morning. Very well, very well. In that grace is the morning.
And every time I see her pass, she take a bite of me. I wish I had a nickel, I wish I had a dime. Yes, I wish I had a pretty girl to love me all the time. Yes,
I wish I had a needle, as hard as I could sew. That's all that girls like her and never run her go. Want to see her today, she lives away the sun. And she's so sweet, honey, every home over the floor.
America.
guest conductor of the 1990 All-State Orchestra is Henry Charles Smith. Along with being a distinguished trombonist, he is the musical director and conductor of the South Dakota Symphony and is professor of music and conductor of orchestras at Arizona State University. Mr. Smith, you've had a very distinguished career as a trombonist. Can you tell us a little bit about that part of your life?
Certainly. I had the good fortune of spending 12 years as a solo trombonist with the Philadelphia Orchestra from 1955 to 1967. Those were during the heyday, the fantastic years of Eugene Ormandy in his time with the Philadelphia Orchestra. And I played over 2,000 concerts with him, and one was better than the next. It was an exciting moment. And all the while, stereo and hi-fi was new, and so everything we played we recorded. And in fact, I'm on all of the Ormandy recordings with Columbia Records. I'm playing over 250 or 300 records. I don't know the exact count. We recorded a lot those days.
It must have been a tremendous pleasure for you to work with the great Eugene Ormandy. Can you tell us a little bit about how he influenced your musical personality?
Well, I hope that I still have ringing in my ear the sounds that he got from the Philadelphia Orchestra. There was an incredible concept of sound, of phrasing, of balancing, of articulation that he transmitted to that orchestra, and I'd like to think that I still have some of that rattling around in my head and can at least bring the concepts that he taught me to the orchestras that I conduct.
You've had a very distinguished career as a professional conductor, working with the Minnesota Symphony and also with youth orchestras with the World Youth Symphony. Can you tell us about your work with youth orchestras?
Well, of course, all the while I was the resident conductor of the Minnesota Orchestra, I worked with young people a lot. I've always worked with students. It's a nice combination, you know, players who teach and teachers who play, and conductors who teach as well as. Of course, conducting is teaching anyway, whether you're in front of the Minnesota Orchestra, the Phoenix Symphony, or an all-state orchestra. You're still teaching, just at different levels. And so it's all part of the same process. It's really hard to separate one from the other. And since playing in the Philadelphia Orchestra and conducting the Minnesota Orchestra, I just think that it's kind of fun and also necessary to pass on some of the meaning of this great literature that we play and conduct, and pass on my love of it to the young people so that they can get the same joy from it that I've had.
Do you find that you have to change your rehearsal style and techniques when working with younger players?
Oh, sure. I mean, you have to take every organization from, not from where you wish they were, but from where they are. And so, you know, certain kinds of things that you have to work out with the youth symphony that you wouldn't have to spend any time on with a professional orchestra, and vice versa, actually. And so you have to quickly assess the group and know what needs work and how you're going to proceed. Otherwise, you don't get any place.
What does the All-State experience represent to you?
I can tell you what it represents to me. As a youngster growing up in suburban Philadelphia, I took part in a lot of these things in the state of Pennsylvania, all-state orchestras, choirs, and bands. And for me, it was an enormously wonderful experience musically. We played under some well-known conductors, but also somehow you build your intense, wonderful loyalties and friendships very often through these experiences. I can remember getting on the train with some other members of that were going to an all-state festival and riding the train from Philadelphia to Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Well, I mean, just that was an experience. Wow, all that distance to Johnstown, 5 miles away on the train. And then I can remember the music that we made. And then we rode the train back, and we sang the whole way. And you know, and some of those people are still my closest friends, and it's been a couple of years since I was in high school. So, you know, music is all of these things. Music is exciting for the head, the heart, the mind, the muscles, as well as the social parts of it. That's part of the fun of it. And you really do build loyalties and friendships that last all your life.
Tell us how you went from your career as a trombonist to being a conductor.
Well, the first instrument I studied was the violin, and I've played strings all my life. although I made my living in the Philadelphia Orchestra as a trombonist. I guess I was born with 5 thumbs on each hand, so I did not become a virtuoso violinist, but I became a pretty decent trombonist. But all my life I've played strings. I played bass in high school, and while I was in the Philadelphia Orchestra, I studied the viola for 3 years, and while I was with the Minnesota Orchestra, I studied cello for a couple of years with one of my colleagues in the orchestra. And so you learn to deal with the string problems. You know what problems they face, and you know what kinds of things to ask for. And of course, the strings have more notes than anybody in the orchestra repertoire, and so you have to deal with these. And a great deal of the time at every rehearsal, whether it's with this all-state orchestra or with the Philadelphia Orchestra, 90% of the rehearsal problems are with the strings because they simply have more to do than anybody else.
Can you tell us how you feel about music education in the total picture of high school curriculum?
You know, music in the life of our whole society is so much a part of our humanity and our civilization, and I think our sanity too. You know, if science tells us how fast and how much, music is one of those things that can sensitize our very being and answer some of the questions about who we are and why we are. And you know, it's awful hard for me to talk about these things, but I feel them very deeply. I think that without these things we wouldn't be any better than the animals, and part of what makes us human and what makes us sensitive is music and poetry and great art and dance and all this sort of thing, because as I say, we find out who we are and why we are, and it gives us an identity. You know, these young people, they're identified with what they can do, and their colleagues think of them you know, in these terms in all of their lives. This can be a very special part of you know, when I was coming into my own musically, it all happened in the 8th grade. I was a lone wolf. I was the shortest, fattest kid in the class, and I didn't know then that I would be a musician for a career. It didn't matter. But all of a sudden, I was sensitive about the fact that nobody picked me for a softball team. I was the last one to be picked, because I wasn't very well coordinated. And at recess, I didn't like to go out and wrestle and get knocked around playing football. I just didn't enjoy the bumps. But I found out that I could do something musically, and all of a sudden I won a few contests, and all of a sudden I found out, hey, I'm okay after all. You know, you don't have to be a football star, and it's wonderful to be a football star, but there are other ways to achieve an identity, and so I found mine that way. And in 1 year, I went from being a less than average student to being a straight A student with half the effort. And it was just, I remember it like yesterday. I came into my own because through this music I found I could do something special. And so I found out who I was and that I was okay too. And I think that a lot of these young people find the same experience. And it lasts all their lives. It's a lifelong friend.
And now, the 1990 All-State Orchestra, under the direction of Henry Charles Smith. Weston Noble will now lead the 1990 All-State Orchestra and Chorus in one of the most stirring pieces in our American musical heritage, the Battle Hymn of the Republic. we bring to a close the 44th Annual All-State Music Festival. Thank you for joining us. On behalf of Iowa Public Television, I'm Jerry Kreitzer.
Major funding for the 1990 All-State Music Festival was provided by Friends of Iowa Public Television.